What would you do if you found out the neighborhood tyrant running your HOA was a complete fraud? In today's story, my choice to look into it led to a masterclass in how to handle it. For those of you who have followed my saga with Brenda, the harpy of the not really an HOA, you've enjoyed the journey so far. This is the final chapter. The aftermath of it all. Because unbelievably, this is the crazy situation that just keeps on giving. When we last left Brenda, she was facing investigations by the State Real Estate Licensing Board and the IRS. In this whole process, I learned something fascinating. The statute of limitations for criminal tax evasion might be just 3 or 6 years. But apparently, there is no statute of limitations for the IRS in civil court. So, while she might dodge a federal prison sentence for her past tax evasion, the IRS could crawl up into her business and go back as far as they wanted. I suspected that would end poorly and expensively for her. On top of that, the State Department of Revenue had also gotten wind of the situation. I can't possibly imagine how that happened. Much like the feds, while they might not be able to press criminal charges on old tax filings, I was certain they'd be digging through every record she's had for the last forever. The official process began for me with an interview with a rather pleasant IRS agent. I walked her through everything I knew, laying out the timeline of what happened and how I first discovered there was no actual HOA. When I explained how this entire avalanche started because Brenda decided to be a bully over a couple of small issues, the agent started laughing. She laughed so hard it took us several minutes to get back on track. And she continued to chuckle and giggle through the rest of the interview. Soon after, the State Department of Revenue contacted me as well, wanting to set up their own in-person meeting. That, I thought, would be fun. Some people suggested I take the story to the local news, but I decided against it. For one, the story wasn't as fresh as it was 7 years ago when it all started, and I didn't trust the media's ability to keep my name out of it. Anonymity was a shield I wasn't ready to give up. That could add needless complications to my life. Maybe if she somehow avoided getting her real estate license revoked, that would change the equation and make it worth it. It would give them a fresh hook. State Real Estate Board refuses to revoke license of crooked agent. News at 11. But it turned out I didn't need the media. On the State Licensing Board website, 3 new items appeared under the disciplinary action section of Brenda's license, 1 proposed suspension sanction and 2 proposed revocation sanctions. My guess was the suspension was to stop her from defaulting back to a regular agent if her primary license was pulled. The 2 revocations were for her principal broker and her regular real estate agent licenses. The process wasn't quick, but the wheels of justice were turning. My friend in the neighborhood, David, told me that several other residents had been contacted by the state board, the State Department of Revenue, and the IRS for interviews. Curiosity got the better of me, so I checked the website for the local branch of the national real estate company where she worked. And just like that, she was gone. Her name was no longer listed as the principal broker or even as an agent. Someone else was now listed as the principal broker. I saw it as a cautious agency making sure they didn't get caught up in her legal mess. But for Brenda, it was a harsh lesson. You are merely a cog in the machine, and you are easily replaced. The best part of this phase came from David, who sent me screenshots of a post Brenda made in the subdivision's Facebook group. It was a masterclass in panicked self-destruction. She had since deleted the post, but not before it was preserved. She was shrieking online about how all the residents were all under a non-disclosure agreement and was openly threatening to sue anyone who talked to investigators for violating the NDA. Brenda made a classic blunder at that moment. Completely unaware that this single foolish post would be seen as witness tampering by the very federal agents she was trying to intimidate. Most people who knew what was happening stayed silent. But a few newer owners were posting confused replies like, "What the hell is she talking about?" The truly glorious response came from a woman who had moved in about a year ago, after the fake HOA was dissolved. Based on her wording, she was clearly an attorney. Her post was a calm, surgical takedown. She stated that while she wasn't aware of the specifics, NDAs do not, under any circumstances, cover someone answering questions from a regulatory or investigatory agency, state or federal. They especially don't cover testimony given under oath. She then added that trying to bully someone into silence with an NDA could be considered witness tampering or intimidation. A few hours later, Brenda's entire post and all the replies mysteriously vanished. But you know who doesn't care about deleted posts? The IRS. With a subpoena, Facebook will gladly hand over the entire conversation. The IRS does not mess around with witness tampering. Maybe she would face criminal charges after all. Then came a major update. The state real estate agency finalized their orders. I wish I could share the full text, but it's public record and easily searchable, which could lead back to me. So I'll summarize. The first revocation, for her principal broker license, was for fraud or dishonest conduct and failure to disclose. The second revocation, for her regular agent license, was for incompetence or untrustworthiness and records. This reveals Brenda's greatest fatal flaw, her arrogance. She believed her schemes were contained to our little neighborhood, never imagining that the same lies and fraud she used everywhere else would be uncovered and seal her fate. The final orders contained bombshells. The investigation, sparked by the 2012 lawsuit from the neighbors, had uncovered a mountain of other stuff. We're talking about lying to clients, falsifying records, not disclosing her relationships with buyers or sellers, and other instances of outright fraud. I will quote one line nearly verbatim from both orders because it's just so delicious. While this board has taken the strongest action granted by the state statutes, much of the information that was discovered during the course of this board's investigation is beyond the purview of this board. Therefore, we are turning over all records and witness testimony to the county, district attorney and the state Department of Justice, Criminal Justice Division for further action. The avalanche of legal hurt she brought on herself was just getting started. One morning, I was walking my daughter to her bus stop when an unmarked SUV with government plates turned the corner. It was the most stereotypical law enforcement SUV you've ever seen in a movie. It parked just a couple of doors down from Brenda's house. I risked being late for work just to watch what would unfold. I was not disappointed. Two individuals in dark blue jackets with bright yellow letters stepped out. The big letters spelled out IRS. And underneath, in smaller letters, were the words Special Agent. I might have giggled when I got back to my truck. I definitely laughed uproariously on my way to work. A quick search confirmed just how big of a poop pile she was in. The only people authorized to wear that special agent jacket are in the IRS's Criminal Investigation Division. One commenter had asked me a while back, now that the IRS is investigating her, do you get the 10% of the underpayment of taxes they get from her? I remember that used to be the offer they had to get people to turn in tax cheats. At this point, any potential reward was just a bonus. The main event was unfolding right before my eyes. I texted David, who had a clear line of sight to her house. And he started sending me updates all day. A second SUV arrived with more agents. These ones apparently there to collect evidence. These agents began hauling out sealed bankers' boxes and a couple of computers. They also spent a lot of time looking at a brand new Mercedes SUV Brenda had recently bought, taking pictures and consulting clipboards near the VIN on the windshield. The real payoff came that evening. David came over with a massive, shit-eating grin on his face. He made me wait for it. And it was absolutely worth it. He showed me a video he'd shot from his living room window. There she was, Lil Miss President of the Not Really an HOA, doing the perp walk. I got to watch her being marched down her own driveway, obviously ranting and yelling the whole time, before being unceremoniously stuffed into the back of a federal law enforcement SUV. Word spread like wildfire. The scuttlebutt was that she was arrested for interfering with the duties of a federal agent. She was released the next morning. But she got to spend a night in jail and dig her legal hole even deeper. Just when I thought there was no more schadenfreude to be had, one final piece fell into place. The next afternoon, I was working in my backyard, from which I can see the side of her house. A flatbed tow truck came up the street. I didn't think much of it until it stopped right in front of Brenda's house, with a county sheriff's office cruiser parked beside it. The tow truck driver began loading up that brand new, not even a year-old Mercedes SUV. A sheriff's deputy stood by the entire time, ensuring she wasn't allowed to remove any personal belongings from it. She wasn't allowed within 10 yards of the vehicle or the driver. As the driver was turning around, I saw she was on her phone. And as clear as day, from half a block away, I heard her shout into the phone, "What do you mean? Evidence." The tow truck, carrying her shiny SUV, drove past my yard. She watched it go, her eyes following her seized asset. And then her gaze landed on me. I couldn't help myself. I smiled. And I waved. She flipped me off, turned on her heel, and stomped back to her house. I had a permanent grin on my face for the rest of the day. One person commented on my story, "Damn, this harpy just keeps getting owned." And it was true. The situation continually got worse for her, all because of her own actions. It was justice porn of the highest order. Ultimately, Brenda learned the hard way that when you build a house of cards on lies and bullying, it only takes one person with the patience to pull the right card for the whole thing to come crashing down. It makes you wonder how many other Brendas are out there running similar scams. What would you do if you found yourself in a situation like this?